Hello everyone, I'm Penrost. Welcome to another seasonal banner. This time around it's the Desert banner. It's been Hatari in the past, it's been Plegia. This one's elevating their magical prowess. They're elevating people so that it's magical, like, ooh, Nino. It's Nino, people. Say hello. Yep, that's a child, alright. It's moving free spaces, wow. And I saw a new effect there as well. Let's take a quick read through. So, if it's magical prowess, then I'm guessing desert this time theming is Khadein. I think that's how you pronounce it. Khadein, Kadoodaloo. Well, in any case, a place from, early Fire Emblems where all the wizards were hanging out. Merrick studied there. That place. That's in the desert. So I think that's where we're going this time for the desert banner, maybe. At least that's the only magical desert I can think of. There's probably more, but that's one that comes to mind immediately. Anyway, Nino, Red Tome Infantry, wielding the child's compass. You see, she is a child. We are very definitely recruiting a child to our forces here. It's funny every time. Accelerate special trigger, cooldown count -1 at the start of turn. If unit's HP is greater than or equal to 25%, grants a unit can't be slowed by terrain. Does not apply to impassable terrain. It's a unit for 1 turn, and unit can move 1 extra space. Turn only, does not stack. Okay, so she's a free tile moving. She's a better horse, basically, just a way better horse, because horses move 3 tiles, but they're stopped by forests. They can't go through forests at all. They're slowed down by trenches, because trenches take all their movement. And they have lower base stats than infantry, because they're cavalry units. So Nino right here is getting all the benefits of being a cav unit with none of the downsides. In fact, none of the downsides even of being an infantry unit, because she can walk through trees just fine as well. At the start of combat, if unit's HP is greater than or equal to 25%, grants attack speed, defense, res +5 during combat, grants bonus to unit's attack and speed, equal to number of bonus effects active on unit ×4, excluding stat bonuses, max 16, and also, if unit deals damage to foe using a special, excluding area of effect specials, reduces damage from foe's next attack by 50%. Once per combat, resets to end of combat, triggers even if 0 damage is dealt. Okay, so greater than 25%, we're getting those extra movement, not stopped by terrain, +5 to all stats. Great. During combat, we're also getting extra attack speed equal to the number of bonus effects on unit, ×4. So not stat bonuses, but other things like, say, extra movement, like bonus doubler granted by Legendary Elliowood, that sort of thing. Ground orders type effects, for instance. There's all those sorts of like little icons that flash up and down on your unit. Each one of them is giving +4 attack and speed, up to 16 if you've got 4 of them. And considering you're normally going to have 2 of them all the time anyway, because again your weapon is literally slapping 2 of them on you with the cannot be slowed by terrain and the extra movement, you're basically starting at +8 from there, and you can stack on 2 more pretty easily, go up to +16. You can get 2 more from literally 1 unit, like something like Harmonic Catria, for instance, is giving you ground orders and triangle attack. You're up there already. Problem solved. And then each time you hit the foe with a special, their counterattack is reduced by 50%. So pretty good for survivability there, especially since this is a slaying unit. This is a unit that's going to be able to walk around with 1 cooldown special, so theoretically you can hit them, halve their counterattack, and then immediately have recharged your special for another hit. Makes a lot of sense. In the A slot, attack speed finish 4. If this is a unit who wants to cycle specials all the time, which they are, then this is just great, honestly. We already know what finish skills do, plus 7 to 2 stats, and if the unit special is ready or triggered already, plus 5 damage, and 7 healing whenever you deal damage. So it's good at everything, really. It's good for your stats, it's good extra damage output, it's good survivability, and that survivability, that healing is extra nice if you're basically always getting damage reduction too, because 7 HP when you're reducing 50% of damage is basically 14 HP, right? Think about it. In the B slot, Speed Preempt 3, we've seen it before on Byleth, it is now back. Come to think of it, this unit is very similar to Brave Byleth, in terms of if you're outspeeding the enemy, you're hitting them with a special, you're getting damage reduction from their attack, okay? Very, very similar there. But this is good, this means that this Desert Nino can dual phase against ranged foes at least, maybe not so much against melee foes, but against ranged foes you can preempt, you can get your damage reduction from triggering your special, or you can even just finish them off with your special before they get to hit you, that's also an option. But in any case, you get your damage reduction and you're all good, hopefully. And in the C slot, something new here, Times Pulse 4. Start of turn, if special cooldown is at its maximum value, grants special cooldown count -1. Okay, and after combat, if special cooldown count is at its maximum value, grants special cooldown count -1. Okay, so it's basically the same as Times Plus 3, they've just extended the situations where it works. Previously, Times Plus 3 triggered at start of turn. Times Plus 4 now triggers at start of turn and after every combat. Now, it's not quite as strong, like, where it's obviously very strong is on units that have 1 cooldown specials that they're looping. So, like this Nino, for instance, like, well, Brave Byleth already has a solution to that, but there's a lot of units out there who have a 2 cooldown special and slaying, so they're at 1 cooldown, and then this will make sure that they always have that special pre-charged for every battle. Theoretically, for units that don't have slaying, it's a lot less fancy. It'll guarantee that your special is, like if you're running a 2 cooldown special naturally, it'll bring it down to 1 cooldown or charge no matter what. It won't bring it down to charged. If it's charged at the end of combat, it will already be charged for the next one, but if it's at 1 cooldown after combat, it won't drop its charged. It only applies at max value. But if it's at 2 cooldown, it will drop it down to 1. So for units who can use that, well, here it is, Times Pulse 4. But really, what this is a huge buff for units that want to cycle 1 cooldown specials. Basically, if you've got a 1 cooldown special, it's a better special spiral replacement, in a sense. Because you don't really need the extra tick from Special Spiral. Now, of course, Special Spiral 4 does have damage reduction shred, so still valuable there, but, well, this is how it is. You've got things to think about, basically. So yeah, that's the unit. Seems pretty decent. Special Looper with damage reduction, and just a lot of mobility and extra stats. Pretty scary in a cav line, honestly. Not a cav unit, but moves like a better cav unit. Interesting. Let's see her animations.
It's a big one.
Oh, it is a big one. Let's see how big. 95, and they're finally admitting that Nino is a fire mage as well. Previous Ninos have been wind. This is Ursula. Next, Royal Blue Crow.
To get my hands on a powerful tome.
Please don't kill anyone, Ursula. Ursula, despite being the Royal Blue Crow, is in fact a green tone cavalry unit, armed with the Crow's Crystal. Why do you need a tome when you've got this huge hunk of crystal, Ursula? Okay? It basically does the same thing, right? Accelerate special trigger, cooldown count -1. At start of turn, if unit HP is greater than or equal to 25%, grants unit cannot be slowed by terrain, does not apply to impossible terrain, desperation, and dominance to unit for 1 turn. At start of combat, if unit's HP is greater than or equal to 25%, grants attack speed +6 to unit during combat and neutralizes effects that prevent units' follow-up attacks. Remember what I said about Khadein getting scarier? Khadein's just got scarier. What you're looking at here is quite a small text box for a modern unit, but a very heavily focused text box. You've got slaying, you've got not being slowed down by terrain, which I guess is the theme of this banner. It's not as useful on a Cav unit as it is on an infantry because Cav units can't pass through forests anyway. The only thing that's slowing them down is trenches, and depending on the mode, well, actually depending on the mode, it matters quite a bit. On the one hand, Aether maps, the popular Aether maps, generally don't have trenches. This could maybe change if we're getting some good units with these skills. But Arena, on the other hand, if you've ever seen an arena map recently, those things just are full of trenches. Those things are... Buddy, you can barely go anywhere without tripping over a freaking trench. So, in arena, that's scary. But also desperation and dominance. If you don't remember what these effects do, which is understandable because it's been a while since the last time we've seen them, desperation just gives you your follow-up attack before foe can counterattack. Interesting that it's being applied as a status here rather than normally effects have like the full effect of desperation in the weapon themselves, but now it's being applied as a status just to yourself, which is cool. It means stuff like Brave Chrome can steal it, I guess. But yeah, you're getting your follow-up attack before foe can counterattack. And dominance is, if I remember correctly, extra damage based on foes' total debuffs. It is the same as it's a broadleaf type effect, basically. So what we're saying here is slaying and then hit twice very hard. And when I say hit twice very hard, I mean hit twice very hard because you're also getting the offensive half-null follow-up, so you are hitting twice very hard, and then just attack speed +6 to top it all off. Nothing really defensive here, but why do you need defensive parts of a weapon when you can just hope that they're already dead by the time you finish hitting them, by the time they get to counterattack, right? Moonbow as for special, well, it's 1 cooldown, it'll go off on your second hit, so long as you're not being guarded. Chill speed res free, start of turn inflicts speed res -6 on foes on the enemy team with the highest speed res total and foes within 2 spaces of those foes. Basically, you're throwing around 12 debuffs to try and increase how much damage you're getting from your dominance. And speed and res are the only enemy stats you really care about because you're hitting them very hard, right? Makes sense. And then in the C slot, Panic, Smoke, 4 we've seen before. -3 to all stats and Panic on target and foes within 2 spaces of target through their next actions, and foe penalty doubler is granted to the unit and the unit's allies in cardinal directions. So again, just a way of really stacking up big penalties on an opponent, both through applying them and then through doubling them as well. If you're able to then get danced and attack again with foe penalty doubler, that dominance effect is going to be doing something a little ridiculous, to be frank. So yeah, that's how it is. Pretty well built unit here. The B slot could easily be switched out because, I mean, you do want to apply debuffs on the enemy, but it doesn't necessarily need to be on this unit. If you're running them on a Khadein, you probably want your debuffing effect to be on your Mythic or your Dancer or something, rather than one of your offensive units, just to absolutely maximize the offensive potential you're getting from that unit, right? So something like a Lull or something else could also do very much the same thing. But yeah, very strong Cavalier unit, a very scary arena unit now that all those trenches are not getting in their way, and just very well focused on blowing stuff up. Let's see what she does. The Orb Blast.
This is child's play.
Yes, that's why we've got Nino doing it. Next up, our demote. Is that Byleth? Fount of Learning.
I imagine that a city devoted to the study of magic.
Yeah, it's Byleth. He's dressed a bit weird, but that is definitely Byleth. Yeah, this looks like a 4-star kit, alright. But having said that, we're back in the zone of very powerful 4 stars, your Summer Claude type 4 stars, because this is a 4-star unit with a PRF weapon and a PRF special. Let's go through the weapon first, shall we? The Guide's Hourglass. This is, if I remember correctly, a blue tome. Accelerate special trigger, cooldown count -1. Start of turn, if units within 2 spaces of an ally. Grants unit cannot be slowed by terrain, does not apply to impassable terrain, and dodge to unit for 1 turn. If unit initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, grants attack speed defense res +5 to unit and neutralizes effects that grant special cooldown charge +X to foe or inflict special cooldown charge -X on unit during combat. And if unit is within 2 spaces of any allies, grants attack speed defense res +4 to those allies during combat. Let's break it down. Okay, so slaying. Do all of these units have slaying? I guess it is like the best bonus effect they've put on a weapon. Slaying just kind of beats every other, like, top slot effect, hands down. Start of turn, if you're within 2 spaces of an ally, you get the same not stopped by trees effect as the other units here. Or, well, not stopped by trenches for calves, but Byleth infantry, so trees. And you get dodge. Reminder, for the dodge effect, it is 40% speed-based damage reduction, the same as all your green B slots. Very special to have that on Byleth here because he is a ranged unit. Ranged units normally cannot equip those green B slots, so, well, this guy can. And again, he's another guy for Brave Crom to steal dodge from. Cool. So yeah, that sort of speed-based damage reduction is pretty hard for tomes to get their hands on. Byleth has it. That makes him pretty unique already. If he initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, +5 to all stats and a full tempo effect, so no need to run tempo in the B slot. And if unit is within 2 spaces of any allies, grants +4 to all of the stats on those allies during combat. So not only a very strong offensive unit, but also has, like the other Byleths, a decent supportive effect. I mean, the other Byleths are maybe stronger for their supportive effects. Legendary male Byleth has his drive null follow-up. Legendary female Byleth has drive tempo. This Byleth just has drive +4, which, I mean, is still pretty good. But not maybe a unit you're running for just support, because for just support, something like Khadein could easily outperform that. For the special, he has his PRF special, Sublime Heaven. Boosts damage by 25% of unit's attack, and if combat is against a dragon foe or a beast foe, increases that to 50% instead of 25%, and it is a damage reduction shredding special. It disables non-special skills that reduce damage by X%. And that's going to be on 1 cooldown, by the way, so remember times pulse 4 earlier in the video. Yeah, he loves that. He loved to see that. And then for the rest of his 4-star kit, in the A slot, speed res finish 3. So I think speed res finish 4 is on one of the T keys, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong. But this now gives you the step up to get that in 1 slot of your inheritance rather than 4. And then the B slot, lull, speed, res, free. Which, on the one hand, I don't know if that's optimal. On the other hand, I don't know what else I'd put there. Because, well, Special Spiral 4 he doesn't need because he already has damage reduction Shred, plus Times Pulse would be better anyway. Tempo he doesn't need because he already has it built into his weapon. Null Follow-Up you could put there, but I mean, that's also a seal slot effect, right? So, I'm sure you can think of something, but honestly, Lull Speed Res might be one of his best B-slot skills, weirdly enough, just because his kit and the seal effects already kind of cover anything else you'd really want. Yeah, that's a very strong 4-star. Just a good nuke mage, but also a good bruisery mage, just because of his built-in damage reduction and, well, I was going to say the healing from finish also helps. He doesn't have the healing from finish because it's not finish 4. But if he did have finish 4, the healing from finish would also definitely help, yes. And he's decently supportive as well. Just a good all-around package. Cool. And that hourglass, bet that's going to look... Oh, we've got the crest, and oh, it's kind of like a crest gazoom. We're going to show off damage reduction as well. Yep, that was some damage that got reduced right there. And the special. Blammo. Now, lastly, our Harmonic unit. Who's it going to be? Thracia character spotted. Thracia character spotted. This is Bound by Fate. Okay, Khadein. That's how it's pronounced. And it's Linde and Sara from Thracia. Come to think of it, I wonder who are... Yeah, I was going to say, we hadn't had anyone really connected to Khadein on this banner yet, or not directly connected anyway. Linde is kind of one step away connected because she uses the Aura Tome. The Aura Tome she got from her father, or it was her father's tome, and her father was a student at Khadein, which is where he got the tome. So it's like, that's the link there. But we haven't really had anyone who's actually been to Khadein on this banner, so weird. Anyway, they are a red tome cavalry unit, so color sharing on red here with Nino, armed with the Celestial Globe. Accelerate special trigger, cooldown count -1, another full slaying banner, by the way. At the start of turn, if units within 2 spaces of an ally grants a unit cannot be slowed by terrain, does not apply to impassable terrain, and null follow-up to unit and allies within 2 spaces of unit for 1 turn. Okay. If unit initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, grants attack speed, defense, res +5 to unit during combat, deals damage equal to 20% of unit speed, including when dealing damage with a special triggered before combat, and reduces the percentage of foes non-special reduced damage by X% skills by 50%. Example, a foe with a reduced damage by 45% skill would reduce damage by 23% instead. I really don't know why they keep insisting on using 45% as the value for the example here, because 1, it doesn't halve nicely, and 2, there really aren't very many units running around there with reduced damage by 45% skills. Almost all damage reduction in the game is either 50% or done in nice multiples of 20%, like 20%, 40%, 60%. 40% is the most popular one, but 60% is also out there. I mean, I guess there are other values as well, like... But in any case, there's not very many units that have 45% specifically. It's not something you see very often. But let's talk about that first part first. At the start of turn, if units within 2 spaces of an ally grants unit cannot be slowed by terrain, okay, and null follow-up So unit now is within 2 spaces of unit for 1 turn. This is a huge cav line enabler on any of those weird maps that have weird terrain. Or, I guess if you wanted to run an infantry cav line using extra movement infantry, this could enable that as well. All those maps like, I've forgotten what they're called, let me just, stuff like Nightmare Castle, stuff like Niville Castle, Bright Grassland, Leafy Canopy, all those maps that have movement blocking features that aren't really used that much because the current defenses that are popular can just kind of go over them, really. They don't really help your defense team against gale forcing too much, and they block you in and they make it hard to deal with tanks. But okay, maybe you can turn that into something that works for you and against your opponent by personally being able to ignore the slowing effects of the terrain. That's worth thinking about, and also granting null follow-up to potentially your entire team. Also a very high value proposition. Cavs, especially on cav lines, really want null follow-up because it's how your fast, high damage cavs are meant to bust through tanks, but they have no built-in way of actually accessing it. So up until now, basically all your top priority cav line tanks either had pre-charged AoE specials, that sort of thing, to essentially not care about null follow-up, or failing that, they had null follow-up built into their PRFs. That means there's a lot of cav units out there that, despite being very strong in their own right, just don't get used on cav lines because they don't have that specific ability baked in. No longer. This is a unit who is going to allow you a lot of team building variety, which is maybe honestly more important than the whole map choice variety thing, because the maps you use are probably still going to remain the same in most cases, like Desert is peak cavline map, but you have more options. Also, funnily enough, you can grant the unit cannot be slowed by terrain effect to any units within 2 spaces, even if those units are armor or flyers, both of whom do not get slowed by terrain. Terrain slowing only applies to infantry and cavs, right? Well, anyway, that's how it is. You can still apply that status, so for PRS that care about just how many statuses are on you, regardless of whether they're actually helping you at all or not, it's handy. So that's good, and then in terms of the offensive skills, it's extra damage, +5 to all stats, of course, but extra damage based on speed, and a half damage reduction shred, which honestly I think I prefer that to the whole all or nothing damage reduction shreds in terms of just like a design standpoint. Obviously it's not as strong because a lot of units out there are running around with absurd amounts of damage reduction, and letting them still run around with some damage reduction is nowhere near as good as letting them run around with no damage reduction, but it is what it is. So kind of a better duo leaf here, unfortunately for duo leaf, but well, what can you do? Specialist Luna, interesting choice. I mean, it does work. The A slot, Remote Sparrow. Please, this is the 3rd improved version of Swift Sparrow you've come up with so far. If unit initiates combat, grants attack speed +7 during combat, and reduces damage from foes' first attack during combat by 30%. Okay, so kind of like Surge Sparrow, except instead of healing, it's damage reduction. Probably a little better than Surge Sparrow in most cases, I'd say, just because the healing can only help you if you've already taken damage and survived it. On the other hand, if you're taking damage that would just kill you, healing isn't going to help you, damage reduction is going to help you, right? B slot, speed res, far trace free. C slot, defense res, smoke free. Ah yes, this is a very good one. This is the Pathfinder one. After combat, inflicts defense res -7 on target and foes within 2 spaces of target through their next actions, grants attack +6 to unit and allies within 2 spaces of the unit for 1 turn, and grants Pathfinder to unit for 1 turn. Being able to Pathfinder through units is huge. Just being able to use that initiator to then act as 1 extra space of movement for the rest of your team to allow them to all follow up behind you, it is a really high value skill, and especially since it's coming on the back of that defense res smoke effect as well. This is just a really strong kit altogether. Nothing too special about the unit themselves, but they do allow some very unique team building. Let's see what they do. And also, let's see their Harmonic skill, because I almost completely forgot that units have those as well. Oh, now that's a cool animation. The 2 spirals coming down from the sky. Okay, Harmonized skill grants Resonance Blades, Dodge, and special cooldown charge +1 per attack during combat. Only highest value applied, does not stack. To unit and allies from the same titles as unit for 1 turn. Okay, so map wide range, which is good, because your Cav teams aren't necessarily going to be staying stuck together. Resonance Blades is +4 attack and speed. Dodge is giving you a lot more survivability on this unit when it's being used in player hands. And special cooldown charge +1, accelerating those specials is good for getting specials out. These are just some really good effects. Now, of course, the unit titles choice does limit it a little bit. There's a lot of good units from the Math games, but Thracia 776 has not had very many banners. Give us more. I'm watching you, IS. Give us more. You hear me? More. So that could limit it a little bit, but these are all really good effects to just put on units. Love stacking a huge amount of dodge and other things on some guy and letting him go just absolutely wild. Very nice. Anyway, that's cool and all. They're going to use it now.
Let's show them true magic.
Let's show them. Alright. And yep, there are the effects. And now they're going to show it off in combat again. This time, demonstrating the damage reduction. Because look, this blue cavalier survives on 1 hit point. They're going to hit back for 29 damage. No! It was reduced. And Big Loon's finished them off. Which is also showing off the extra specials. Sage of Khadein. I've forgotten how to pronounce it already. Why is there a question mark? And our Tempest trial unit is Soren. They've got to be doing this on purpose. They've got to be doing this on freaking purpose. Male Byleth and Soren at this time of year, for reference, this time of year it is currently in the middle of Choose Your Legends voting. Both of those units I've just named are currently in the top running on, or well, assumed to be in the top running because we don't know exactly, but they probably are in the top running based on previous years for the men's side of Choose Your Legends 7. So giving them a banner where they're both, well, one's a demote, one's a Tempest trial unit, during the middle of Choose Your Legends voting is definitely going to have an effect. I can't say what that effect will be, but it's going to have it. That's very silly of you, IS. You should have known this would happen. So yeah, fun. As for the rest of the banner, some pretty strong units there. I don't feel like any of these are must-haves. If anything, our Harmonic unit is probably the most exciting one here because that's a very big application of null follow-up that potentially allows you a lot of leeway as a support. But the main theme of the banner is that preventing you from getting slowed down by forests and trenches, and, well, to be honest, I don't know how relevant that's going to be. There's a chance, of course, it could be very relevant. We'll see what people manage to do with it, but considering that, well, on a lot of maps at the moment, the trenches and forests are neat, but not really something you care a huge amount about. And on Aether raids, they just aren't on most of the maps that are very commonly used. We'll see how impactful those are. Now, interestingly, the best units on this banner, I'd say, are also color sharing on red. Weird, but red's relatively valuable to snipe for here. And of course, Byleth getting added to our very strong 4-stars pool. I know there's a lot of Byleth fans out there. Just like Summer Claude, I'm expecting Desert Byleth. We're going to see a lot of +10s of him in the near future, so that should be something to plan around. I'll probably hold off on this banner, just because, well, I think we're going to be getting some other very spicy stuff in the quite near future, seeing as Engage is coming out very soon. But, well, you all let me know what you think, who you're pulling for, who you're not pulling for, and I'll see you all next time. Penrost out.